Well, a very warm welcome to you guys. Hello, and welcome to the first episode of Student Problems. I'm Cassim. Want to firstly start off by thanking you so much for watching. I want to thank you so much for joining me, and I hope that something that I share with you today can help you to become a higher, fuller expression of yourself. So I have five questions actually, that I want to talk about today, which I hope can add some value to you. The first is a question which says, I don't know what to do with my life. The second one is, I feel like a nobody. The third one is, am I normal? The fourth one is, should I buy my own house? And the fifth one is, seen a house I really like, but the girlfriend doesn't know if she wants to move in with me. So, up until I think a month ago, I never realized how many questions I got from young people. I never actually realized this. So I started, many of you will know, next year I'm off to Hawaii. As I have like a list of goals that I want to do, and one of them is to see a live volcano. And in Hawaii, there are live volcanoes. So next year in May, I'm off to Hawaii to see a live volcano. And in that time, between the last month, I've been working in a warehouse to basically get some extra money to pay for that holiday so that I don't have to take it out of my savings. And whilst I've been working in this place, a lot of the people who work where I work are young people. And I cannot tell you the amount of questions that they ask me. They ask me so many different questions. They tell me about problems that they have. And I'd never actually even thought about young people as talking to them about problems, but it seems young people are curious. They have a lot of issues that they need answering to. So I thought I would start a new series where I just spend an hour and answer young people problems. Maybe perhaps they might be useful for you. I don't know. I don't really know how this is going to turn out, because this wasn't something that I was expecting, but it's just loads of young people would over the last month have said to me, oh Cass, you should give your advice online, blah blah blah. That's why I thought, you know what, I'm a man of my word. I like to give advice. I like to help people. So let me see what I can do. So let's go straight into it. And let me give you the first scenario, which I've been reading, that I thought perhaps I can give an answer to or a response to. So it goes like this. It's entitled, it was written on a student forum, and it said, I don't know what to do with my life. And this is the scenario. So it says, I took two gap years. I got AAA in my A-levels and started at university this year. I am not sure how employable my course is though in Bsc. I am considering studying something like physics or maybe even getting a degree apprenticeship. But I don't want to take any more time out. Do you think it's worth switching at this stage? Right, okay, so I actually haven't come up with an answer for these. I've genuinely just got these, and so my answer is literally me responding on the spot, as if somebody has just asked me the answer to this question. Okay, so firstly, let's just start off by saying, number one, well done. Because, you know, if you've made it through through college, if you've got your A-levels, that is already a plus, because I cannot tell you the amount of people, particularly because I'm speaking from a place where much older, I cannot tell you the amount of people who are my age just say to me, do you know what, Cassim, I wish I'd worked harder at school. I wish I wasn't such a bad student at school. I wish I'd got my A-levels. I wish I'd concentrated in school. So the fact that you already made it through that kind of formative education and you've got such incredible results, I applaud you. That's really good. So we can say already, the first thing is, you've already won at something. You know, at the moment, you may feel like a loser. You may feel as though you're behind everybody. You may be looking at a lot of people in your life and you're thinking, yeah, but Cassim, they've got an amazing job in this corporation, in Microsoft. This person's already traveled. This person's already married. This person already has children. You may be looking at them and thinking that, but the truth of the matter is, you've already won. You know, one of the big piece of advice that I would give to you, if I'm giving you this and I'm answering this question, is one of the things that you want to learn very quickly is to stay in your lane. Don't be preoccupied with looking at other people and playing the keeping up with Joneses game. The keeping up with Joneses game is a game where if your friend has an Audi A4, you will want, and theirs is 2010, you want the same car, but 2020. And this game is a very dangerous game, and a lot of people, without even realizing it, play it. This game of trying to keep up with the Joneses. In fact, when I've done research on what makes people unhappy, this is one of the paths to unhappiness. Comparison. In fact, my sisters, I remember it's a philosophy that my sisters share with me all the time. My sisters say to me, Cassim, comparison is a thief of all joy. So I would encourage you to get away from trying to compare yourself with other people and actually acknowledge that you've done something which is really, really, really good, right? So the other thing that I wanted to share with you, which is related to going to university, because I know you said, I'm not sure how employable my course is. I would say to you, and this has always been my philosophy, and I've shared this with almost everyone who asks me about university. In fact, I didn't go to university. And the reason why I didn't go to university is because I strongly believe that if you're going to go to university, you need to know what your end goal is. In other words, the reason why you're going to university in some way has to be related to what your vision, to what you want to be doing in 5 to 10 years' time. Now, if you don't know what it is that you're going to be doing in 5 to 10 years' time, do not go to university, in my opinion. Now, I know other people may give you different advice, but as you're asking for my advice and you're listening to me, my advice would be do not go to university unless the degree or the course that you're taking directly links to something that you want to do in 5 to 10 years. For example, if you say, Cassim, in 10 years, I want to be a doctor in the NHS and treating patients. Clearly, you going and doing a medical degree is clearly something which is going to be of an advantage to you. If you say, Cassim, I want to get to the point where I am a teacher, right, in a school. We know that to become a teacher is very, very difficult for you to do it without going and getting a teaching degree. So you need to go to university. Now, I'll tell you that one of the things that I hear a lot of young people make is that a lot of young people say to me, yeah, but Cassim, I can gain experience at university. I disagree. You're not going to get. Do you know what most students do? Most students essentially spend university partying, getting absolutely smashed, and that's kind of it. And that's basically, in essence, is what they do. And they do some work and they rush everything at the end and somehow they scrape doing really well. If you're looking for experience, my advice to you is go and travel the world. And I mean, instead of going to university and trying to get experience there, forget about university for a minute. Don't rack up loads of debt, and instead go and literally get a freaking ticket, the cheapest ticket, or the whatever amount of money you've got. Go and get a ticket and fly to the nearest place that you can. It can be France, and then start going there. And find a job and go and work in a pub and whatever it is that you need to do. You are going to learn more in 1 year by flying somewhere and try to make it there than you are in 3 years of university. You're going to learn more about yourself and about how the world works and about people and how to interact with people. And also, it's going to help you with another thing. You're going to become valuable. Let me tell you why. So there is a book that I'm due to write, and in that book I am going to be writing about what it's going to take to be a winner leading up to 2058. And in that book I state basically skills that you're going to need to become a winner. And one of the things that I'll be saying in that book is people are not, if we go back to like 20, 30, 40 years ago, a degree was something which would help you become a leader in the marketplace. It would help you win in the workforce. Today, people are not employers are not looking for people who have got a degree. What they're looking for is one of the things that they're looking for is they're looking for people who have adaptability. They're looking for people who have leadership skills. They're looking for people who have the ability to work with people who are completely different from them, who speak different languages, who have different faiths. And if you don't believe me, let me ask you this. Let's just hypothetically speak, if you were the owner of a company and you had two candidates, both went to university, both of them were the same kind of age, same kind of background, but one of them had the ability to adapt and had worked with people from all kinds of countries and had worked with and has amazing skills with being able to interact with people. Which one of those are you going to go for if one of them has that and the other one doesn't? I'm guessing that your answer is you would go with a person who has the experience, who's able to work with all these people, right? And you're going to learn that more if you go and travel the world. So what I would share with you is, if you don't know what it is that you want to be doing, I would actually quit university. And do you know what I would do? I would go to a really poor country around the world and try to make it work. And if you can't get to a poor country, go to the nearest country that is not like the UK. This is a really important key. A lot of places around the world are built to suit tourists, meaning it is an artificial environment. So for example, if I go to, I don't know, Spain, and I stay in a resort in Spain, everything is like England, just hotter. So what I would encourage you to do is, if you, for example, decide, okay, let's go to Spain, you've got to stay where the people who work in the hotels stay. You've got to do the work in the places like hotels. Don't go to some really fancy job where you're working in an office where you're the manager. No. You need to go down to the bottom, because then you're going to learn discipline. You're going to learn how to be humble. You're going to learn basically you're going to see the problems when you're at the bottom. I can tell you that I spend a lot of time around leaders, and one of the problem around leaders have, like CEOs, managers, directors, one of the issues that they have is that they never know what is happening in their company. Part of the reason is because they're never on the floor. And in fact, if you've ever gone to like a leadership, well, you probably haven't, but I can tell you I've been to loads of leadership seminars and stuff like that. And one of the things that they're constantly talking about is, if you're the director, manager, CEO, you've got to spend time on the shop floor, in the organization, meet with people, because the people who work in Tesco's, who are the customer service people, are the people that know where the problems are in the organization, right? And if you can develop leadership, you can develop the ability to work with people, and you get this mindset of seeing problems. That's when you're going to find out what you want to do. Because people who get paid a lot of money in life are paid for how many problems that they can solve. Essentially, let me break it down like this for you. In the world pays for three kinds of people. For three things, I guess, generally speaking. We pay for what is really unique, or what is the best. So in other words, if you go and buy a Rolex watch, freaking hell, you could go and buy a Casio watch and it would still tell the time. But the reason why you go and buy a Rolex watch is because it's the best. And it's really unique. Not many people have it. Why do people go and buy Bentleys and Rolls Royces? Because nobody else has them and they're really unique. The other thing that we pay for in society is good value for money. We pay for something where when we go to Primark and we buy a t-shirt, we know that if it rips in 2 months, we aren't going to go back and complain and say, well, you've sold me something which is shit. Because we know it's good value for money, right? We know that it wasn't made from the best quality, right? So when you go into an organization, there are some people in every company that aren't the best, but they aren't the worst. But they are kind of, they're like the salespeople, they're like the PA, they're like the cleaners. You know what I'm saying? They're valuable, but they're not the best, they're not the most uniquest. They can easily be replaced. The other thing that society pays for is pioneers. We pay for people who break ground, people who take us to where we've never been before. So that's the advice that I would give somebody who is asked the question, Cassim, I don't know what to do. What should I do? That's my advice to you. Let's go on to the second question here, which says, it's entitled, I feel like a nobody. Okay, let me read you what it says. It says, I've always been different. I was a troubled child getting into fights, into trouble, and I regret it so much. I failed at school and I don't know where life is leading me. My past of trouble could be preventing me from joining the army and some other things like medical issues. But there is still a chance of me getting in. If the British Army fails, then I am thinking of going to America, as I know someone who will sponsor me for a green card, and I could attempt to join the army there. But now a medical problem has popped up, and if it's too bad, I wouldn't be eligible to join the US Army. I want to do something exciting in my life and do something that is not only helps people, but that can potentially save a life. We were only given one life, and I want to dedicate my life to a good cause and to live an exciting life. But this all seems to be going down the drain, and I don't know what to do with my life. I guess I want to be a somebody, and I also know that if the army doesn't work, I will end up going down a dark spiral of depression. I used to be a bad person and I've sinned a lot, but I want to save people from some of the horrible things that the world has to offer. But at the same time, I want an exciting life and to travel a lot. The army offered all of that, but that possibility is slowly going down the drain. I don't know what to do. Wow, great question. So firstly, the person who wrote that, what I would give in response to that is, let me break this down actually, because I think it's really important. So first thing I would say is, you talk about having a troubled childhood. Let me tell you that no matter who you think has had a perfect upbringing, everybody has had some kind of trauma in their childhood. No matter how much you think that people have had great parents and have had a great upbringing, everybody has been in some way damaged. There is a woman who I've spent a lot of time studying, who's one of the leading therapists in the UK. I can't remember her exact name, but one of the things that she talks about, because she specializes in people who've gone through trauma, one of the things that she talks about is, no matter what family you come through, nobody escapes childhood without some kind of repercussion. So I would firstly say to you, you're normal. The fact that you've gone through this is normal. There is no, you may think that everybody else on the outside is perfect. This is not true. Everybody in some way is scathed. Everybody in some way has been fucked up. We're all fucked up, essentially. So that's the first thing that I would share with you. Second thing that I would share with you is, I want you to research something called the anti-hero. One of my missions in life is to help men to become higher, fuller expressions of themselves. And I focus on what I call anomalies. People who do things that are basically they shouldn't have done. Like people who were born to parents who were in jail and they end up becoming model citizens. Kids whose parents went through divorce and they were put up for fostering and they were abused in foster care, and yet they end up amazing human beings. So that's who I'm fascinated with. And one of the things that I can share with you, which is really useful, is that people always support the underdog than the person who is supposed to win. If you've ever watched a race where somebody was losing the race and then they started coming back from the back of the race and they started progressing to the front of the race, you will know that even though they may be someone who's naturally talented, gifted, and they deserve it, we cheer on for the person who was at the back and is running to the front. We all love an underdog. The fact that you fucked up, the fact that you messed up, actually means that you have a more likely chance of winning at life, because people are going to cheer you on. People respect people who fucked up and messed up. They've acknowledged it, which you have. You've acknowledged that you fucked up. You've acknowledged that you're a bad person. And let me actually tell you one further thing, which is really important. The fact that you have acknowledged that you're a bad person and that you want to improve actually makes you more reliable. I would rather trust somebody who is fucked up and I say, do you know what, I fucked up, I know I've done bad, than trust somebody who says that they haven't fucked up. Because if somebody hasn't fucked up, that means either they've never tried at anything or they're lying. Right? And if you've never tried at anything, which means, because the only way that you can fail is you have to try at something, right? You have to push outside of your comfort zone. I don't really want to be surrounding myself with people who've never tried anything at life. So the fact that you are somebody who not only has acknowledged the fact that you fucked up, has not only acknowledged the fact that you want to improve your life, you are like the ideal person to win. You are the ideal anti-hero. Research that word, anti-hero. I think is going to be useful for you, right? You are the ideal person to win. People are going to want to support you. People are going to want to be behind you, because we all love people with stories. You've actually got a story to tell, right? Nobody wants to be stuck behind a parked car. We all want to be, actually, let me use a metaphor. So about 6 years ago, I used to break down a lot with my car. And the reason I used to break down is because I was so poor and I had such little money that I would run out of petrol. I would then take a jerry can, walk to the petrol station, fill it up with like £5 and walk back to my car, put the jerry can in my car. And because it was only £5, the line wouldn't even go past the red thingy, right? And so I would have to play this guessing game of when I think I'm going to run out of petrol. And of course, then I would crash, then the car would stop at some point because I'd guessed wrong, and then I would have to repeat the entire scenario all over again. And I remember one time, I was sat in my car for ages, and I had my hazard lights on, and nobody stopped to help me. But one time, I got out of the car and started pushing my car. As I started pushing my car, people started getting out of their cars and helping me push my car to the side. And I thought, that's weird. Why are people now helping me push my car? Because we all want to help somebody who already wants help and is already helping themselves. The fact that you want to join the army, the fact that you want to improve is already a great thing. Let me tell you one other thing which is important. I would really look at your interpretation of the manifestation of your desires. So, about 6.5 years ago, I wrote down about 500 goals that I wanted for my life. So these were things like watch the All Blacks, interview a president, write a book, go see a live volcano, climb a mountain, things like this, right? And on that list, and as I started doing this list, some remarkable things started to happen that I wasn't expecting. I started to achieve things on that list, but the things that I had achieved did not come in the way that I thought they were going to come, right? For example, on my list of goals is I have a goal which is to change a life. No, to save a life, sorry. Now, to save a life, the way that I see it in my head is I see like me giving a lung, a leg, I don't know, I'm giving some kind of part of my body. But saving a life doesn't have to manifest itself in that way. Because here's what I came to realize, and actually, my friend told me, you do realize that by doing a video about suicide or doing something that encourages somebody, you do know that somebody could watch that, and because of that, you could save their life, right? And this made me realize, oh, so sometimes the dream that I have doesn't always manifest itself in the way that I've envisioned it. And so the point that I'm getting at here is, I would ask you to expand your view of the manifestation of your dream. So for example, you talk about wanting to help people because of what you've been through. That doesn't have to come through the army. That can be as a doctor, that can be as a counselor. And so what I would share with you is this. Research. Go and make yourself know all the different paths which are available to you, right? In other words, the key word that I want you to really focus in your life is exposure. Exposure means becoming aware of everything. There is a saying that says the best time to have the map is before you enter the woods. I ask you to go and get loads of maps. Look at all the various areas of life where people are helping people. That could be a firefighter, a counselor, a doctor, it could be a librarian. Look at all the various aspects. It doesn't necessarily have to be something related to the army. So I would really ask you to look at that. What else have you said in here? The other thing that you said, which I wanted to talk about, was also note, by the way, the fact that you said, I have a friend who can help me get a green card or something like that. Notice how already people want to help you. Isn't that interesting? I don't know, it's just something that you want to think about, that the fact that because you want to succeed and you have such a good intention, there's already people who even want to help you get a green card. I just think that's really fascinating. Everything seems to be going down the drain, and I don't know what to do with my life. What do you say? The army offered me all of this, but the army offered me all of this, but there's a possibility of it going down the drain. So one of the things that I wanted to finish off this with is by letting you know that, look, one of the big lessons that you have to learn from life is that everything that has a beginning has an end. That there are, no, let me put this a different way. Do not confuse scaffolding for the structure of the building. So let me explain what I mean by that. So a lot of people, when things happen in our lives, we don't realize that those things are like scaffolding. You know, scaffolding, it helps. Scaffolding is what you put on the outside of buildings when you're going to change like a roof or something. A lot of the mistakes that a lot of us make is that we don't realize that there are some things in our lives that are only supposed to be scaffolding. In other words, we may meet somebody and be in a relationship with them, but that person was never going to be the one. They were going to be the person who we lost our virginity to. They were going to be the person who teaches us how to not be manipulated in a relationship. They were going to be the person who was going to teach us how, with the fact that we don't want somebody who doesn't want kids. Do you understand what I mean? And a lot of us, what we do is we confuse that with the structure of the building. We think, yeah, but Cassim, because they don't want kids, we can change them, or we can wait and maybe they may change when they're older, or we try to use some persuasion or manipulation to get them to like our dream, right? And in the same token, the fact that you've tried to apply to get into the army might be scaffolding in your life. That might be the route that you needed so that you can learn how to be defeated, how you can pursue something and then reinvent yourself. Because an aspect of helping people is that you have to have an ability to reinvent yourself. In fact, look at me doing this. I never thought that I would be helping students and giving them advice. That's not something that I wanted to do. I wanted to help people who were like 30, 40, 50 years of age. but I've had to reinvent myself. I've had to change and adapt my dream of helping men to become higher fellow expressions of themselves in a different way than I thought. And that's something for you that I would consider. Perhaps the army was scaffolding in your life. Have you thought about that? Something for you to think about. So that's where I want to leave that. And that takes us to the next question, which is this. Am I normal? Is the next one. So this is what somebody says. I want to keep this post anonymous. Nobody understands what goes on in my mind. I feel so alone. I have no friends and I'm useless. Nobody is making me feel that way. I just know I am. I'm always so scared to talk to people because I always think that they will judge me for who I am. I hate feeling embarrassed and I hate being the center of attention. I hate leaving my house because I'm scared to talk to people and I feel like I can't breathe in a busy place. I'm a very quiet person and I'm very awkward. I wish I wasn't like this. And this isn't, and this is, I wish I wasn't like this. It makes me feel like I'm a nobody. Wow, what a fascinating question. Well, okay, so the first thing that I would share in answer to this question is the fact that you feel nobody and you've recognized it is a really, really important aspect. And so I want to actually congratulate you for the fact that you've recognized the fact that you feel a nobody. They talk about, in my research of finding people who were both successful and both who were happy and were living incredible, fulfilled lives, I found that there was a direct correlation between how conscious, how aware people were to their emotions, to their state, to their emotional well-being, to their vitality, to how people saw them, to the way they made people feel and how fulfilled they were. Because let me tell you one thing that I think is really important. You cannot improve what you're not aware of. You cannot better what you're not aware exists, right? And I think you can agree with me when I say that. So now let me lead to the second thing that I would share with you. The second thing that I would share with you is to recognize that human beings have the ability to get better. Human beings, we have the ability to improve. Human beings, we have the ability to actually manifest and reinvent ourselves and become better versions of ourselves. Now, that can happen for, I guess, there's three reasons that I have found people change, right? People get better, and that change can be for good or bad. But let's just talk about in aspect of betterment, right? Something which is good. I found that people change for three reasons. Number one is because they have to. Right? So if somebody is feeling really low, they've become suicidal to the degree that they cut themselves, they've tried suicide, to take suicide, take their own lives, and they've got to the point where they've been forced to have to go to the doctors, go through a rehab, go through therapy. Somebody has been ignoring their relationship and it's got to the point where their partner's now said, I want a divorce. And now they're forced to have to sort out their share. Somebody has been smoking and they've been talking about quitting smoking for years, but it's got to the point where they've had a heart attack, they've gone in and the doctor has said to them, if you continue smoking, if you continue eating what you're eating, you are going to kill yourself, right? And it's got to the point where the person's like, right, okay, I have to change then, fine. I don't really want to, but I have no choice. The second reason that people change their lives is because something comes into their life. So in other words, we meet a girl and the girl doesn't like smoking. And we said, you know what, I'm going to change because she doesn't like smoking and I love her and I want to be with her. We have a child and we want to be a really good model for the child. So we stop drinking, we stop partying, we stop that crazy taking drugs lifestyle. And instead we become model citizens, right? We stop kind of driving the latest, biggest, fastest car. We stop doing 110 on the way on the A40 in going up to Bristol. We stop doing that, right? Instead, we drive a more sensible car. We look after our health. We run, we jog, etc. Right? Now, the third reason that people change is the one that took me up until last year to understand. The last one is because of choice. Human beings, we don't have to have something really bad go wrong in our lives. We don't have to have somebody come into our lives and inspire us. We can literally calculate and actually make a decision based on calculation and make a decision to do something or not to do it. We can say, well, do you know what? At the moment, my life is a bit shit, but it's not like, oh my God, I'm going to kill myself. Well, my life isn't really as bountiful as I'd like it to be because I see other people have what I have and I don't have it. So, well, what do I need to do? Okay, I need to work out a bit. I need to go to therapy. Right, well, let's go to therapy. Let's go and work out a bit. I need to get around more confident people. Okay, well, let's go and do that. So the first thing that I would encourage you to understand is that you have the ability, if you want to improve, to get better, to grow. If you want to, you can literally say, from today, I'm going to change, I'm going to develop, I'm going to start working on myself, and I'm going to start heading towards where I want to get to. That's the first thing. The second thing that I would do is to take the advice which I heard from Jim Rohn. Jim Rohn said, study whatever it is that you want. What does studying mean? Studying means get every piece of literature, every book, watch every video, every article, everything, consume everything to do with whatever it is that you want to improve. Basically, you want to become, so there was a girl who I researched on the internet. She was a remarkable girl, and she was what did she have? She had a cystic fibrosis, and she was just give me 1 second. So her name was actually Claire, sorry. Her name was Claire, and this was a remarkable girl. I want to try and find her so that I can give you the link to her, because she's a remarkable girl. Here she is. So she had cystic fibrosis, and her name was Claire Wineland. Go on YouTube and search for her. So Claire, and in wine, as in W-I-N-E, land, L-A-N-D. Go and search for her. She taught me a really important lesson. So she was talking about the fact that in life, she has cystic fibrosis, but she knows more about her sickness than the doctors know about it. She's done more research than the doctors know. In fact, sometimes she tells the doctors what doses that are wrong with her, and the doses, and the doctor says, well, it's this doses, and she said, no, it's not that dose, it's this one. What I'm saying is that you want to know exactly what is happening with you, because what it will do is it will give you what's called a locus of control. It will give you control. I have a workshop on Sundays called a goal setting workshop, and in that workshop I explain to people that information alleviates fear. When you understand something and you have a lot of information about it, and you understand how it works, how likelihood of you getting it, or of it killing you, or where it comes from, the less you fear it. When you don't know about something, when you don't really understand it, when you don't know how it works, you're basically left to take the opinions of other people, and you never form your own opinions, right? So what I would say to you, and in this advice that I'm giving you, is if you feel lonely, read every single book on loneliness that you can find. If you feel in your life that you are not very good with people, go and get every single book that you can get on people and communication that you can. And let me give you the first book to start you off with. There's a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People. How to win friends and how to win friends, how to win. Yeah, it's called How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's a really, 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 really good book, and it's by a guy called Dale Carnegie. Go and get that book. That is the beginning of your journey. Okay, so that's the second piece of advice. Study whatever that you need to improve. The third piece of advice that I'm going to give you is that is this. The way that you're feeling, there are other people who are feeling exactly the same as you. And they want exactly what you want. Your job is to find those people. Okay? People, do you know what I think is really interesting? As you've wrote this, one of the things that I'm thinking about in the back of my head is that you are almost separating people in the sense that you think other people are superior to you. And so one of the things that I would ask you actually to really look at as you look at yourself and examine yourself a bit more is really look at the philosophy that you hold about human beings. Because the way that you've wrote this leads me to think that you somehow think there are some people on this planet who are superior, who are godlike, who have their life is more valuable than your life is. And I would ask you, if that is the philosophy that you hold, I would ask you to adopt my philosophy, which is that every single one of us is equal in the eyes of God. Whilst all of us may have different capacities, we all are this equal in the eyes of God. Meaning that you may be shy, but hold on a minute. There are different things where when people look at you, they say, you're so talented, you're naturally gifted, God, you're so good at this, right? And you probably don't even recognize it because you're like, no, I'm not. No, I'm not that kind of person. No, I'm not, I'm not good at computers. But if you really looked, you would see that there are some things that you are able to do, where on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being not good and 10 being world class, you're easily a 7 on that scale. So if you hold the philosophy that I hold, which is that all of us are equal, absolutely, there's some people who are better than are better than others at certain things, and there are some of us who are bad at things, then you will not have this tendency to go down this path of saying, well, people don't understand me, well, people don't really get me. No, there are people who get you, you just haven't found them yet, right? There are some people who are also think that they're awkward, but you just haven't found those people yet. So keep looking, keep finding these people. And, I would ask you to develop one of the key traits of successful people, which is courage. Until you develop courage, you can't practice any of the other virtues, right? You can't practice you can't practice patience, you can't practice any of the other virtues without firstly developing courage. It takes courage to be successful. It takes courage to make friends. It takes courage. Courage means that you feel fear, but you do it anyway. You don't really want to do something and it's going to embarrass you and you're going to look like a fool, but you go and do it anyway. To finish off what I want to say, one of the things that I want to let you also know is if you do and follow that path, one of the things that you're going to do is that you're going to become actually relatable. If you start failing and showing your flaws, and stop going around the world protecting yourself and hiding yourself and not revealing your truth to everybody, you will come to realize that people actually want to connect with you more. There is a tendency, I think, with the way that you've wrote this, there is a tendency, I think, for you to go around the world protecting yourself. Well, I don't want them to judge me. Well, I don't want them to think that they're better than me. Well, I'm not as good as them. Well, I don't want them to see me like this. You're walking around the world guarding yourself. I wonder if you will put your hands down and invite people in, that people might actually have an opportunity to actually get to know you. Question, have you actually given other people permission to like you? Or are you one of these people who self-sabotages yourself and other people, and you say they'll never love you, they'll never like you, they'll never get on with you. So you've robbed somebody of them making a decision about you by making the decision up for them. There are people who want to get to know you, but you're so defensive and you're so closed off about never opening yourself up and your truth that there are some people in life who you've already robbed them of even making the choice up about whether they like you or what you like. And I would encourage you to really look at that. But I want to say to you, I think you're doing great already. You're on the right path. And I think you're going to do remarkable things. So that's what I would share with you. So this then leads us on to the next thing that I want to talk about, which is, should I buy my own house? So the scenario goes like this. I need your advice. I'm a 23-year-old male Pakistani. I find my parents are very controlling and they don't want me to move out. I told my dad that I would like to rent or buy my own house in a couple of years and move out and have a family. He got very angry and said that I should stay in his house and have kids in the same house. Crazy, I know. Or he will give me his other house. I want my own independence and go out to rent or buy a house and have privacy with my own family. However, my family does not want that. Is he right? So I'm going to work backwards and firstly say, I think you're looking at this all the wrong way. I think you are in this mindset which I tried my very best to get away from, which is this mindset of good and bad, right or wrong. So let me explain to you. Coincidentally, I'm reading a really interesting book at the moment, which I've nearly finished, which talks about what is called an infinite game and a finite game. So a finite game is a game where it's like football or chess. It is a game that has an end. So in other words, in football, there are two sides. We play football and somebody has to win or lose, right? That's how the game, a finite game works. There has to be a winner and there has to be a loser. In football, if you draw, it will go to penalties, and then from penalties, a winner will be decided. But you know that there is a winner or a loser. There's another game which is called an infinite game. An infinite game is a game where there is no winner or loser. There is no end. So an infinite game can be like in business, where let's say the company that you work for at the moment, this year, at the end of 2020, they make 50 million in profits. Do you know what the company is going to do next year? It's going to raise the bar to 60 million. Do you know what if they make 60 million next year, do you know what they're going to do the year after? They're going to make it 80 million. In other words, they're not playing to win, they're playing for the fun of playing. Now, let me put this in the context of what I've just said to you at the beginning. The way that you're looking at your life and this situation is in terms of a finite game. You're looking at this as if there has to be a winner and there has to be a loser. Either you're right or your dad is right. I would encourage you to get away from that mindset and develop the infinite game mindset. There is no right or wrong. There just is. There is your truth, there is his truth. Neither of them are right and neither of them are wrong. And if you develop that philosophy and that sort of mindset and that level of thinking, what that will allow you to do is it will allow you to understand why your father is seeing the world the way he's seeing it. Because at the moment, not one time did you say why your father is saying that you should have this. All you've said is what he's done. In fact, there is a big lesson that I learned from a guy called John Maxwell. John Maxwell said that we judge other people for what they do and we judge ourselves for the why we did it. So, for example, in this situation, you're judging your father for what he said to you, what he says you have to do and the way you have to behave. And yet, I hear you saying, I want to move out, which is what you want to do. But then this is what you say. I want to have my own kids. I want my own. The reason why I want to move out is because I want my own independence and I want my own privacy. So you've mentioned the reason why you want to move out, but not one time did you mention the reason why your father wanted you to stay with him in the home. And this was a big lesson for me, particularly when it came to people who I hated. or people who I conflicted with, because it was a way for me to develop me as a human being. If the me seeing the world from an infinite worldview put me in a situation where I always had to see, well, why does my dad want me? What's going through my father's head that is putting him in a position where he believes that I should stay at home? Could it be the fact that he was brought up with that same thinking and that's all he knows? Could it be because we live in a world which is volatile? We live in a world where there's coronavirus, there is ISIS going on, people can't afford to buy their own homes. Could it be the fact that he doesn't like the culture of people drinking? Or, you know, one of the things that my mother says to me is that my mother doesn't want me, and she constantly says, Cassim, I don't want you to live really far away because I don't want you to be like a lot of English people where they don't see their own parents in 8-9 months, right? Where they see their parents like on special occasions, Christmases and birthdays, right? And perhaps that's the reason why he wants you to stay at home. But you wouldn't know that unless you've actually asked him. Have you asked your father why he wants you to stay at home? Now you might say, yeah, I already know because he wants to control me. No, that's you seeing the situation from your point of view. You've got to see it from his eyes. My manager, I used to work with a manager called George Steedman, and George Steedman said, Cassim, put yourself in other people's skin. Other people's skin means feel how they feel, right? Look at their background, look at their story, look at the way their life is, and then see the world from that perspective. Don't see the way people look at circumstances the way people are seeing them. No. What is that saying? There's a saying that says, put yourself in other people's shoes. No. Saying put yourself in other people's shoes is seeing as they see things. Putting yourself in their skin means that you feel how they feel, because all of us are driven primarily by the way we feel, right? Which is why you wrote about the fact that you want independence and you want privacy. Those are all things about how you feel. My question to you is, what's his reason for the way that he feels? The second thing that I want to say is actually congratulations. Because, do you know what? If at age 23, you're already thinking about housing, you're already thinking about buying your own house, you're already thinking about moving in, fair play to you. I can tell you right now that I know people who are 30 years of age who still don't know what they want to do with their life. They have no savings. Weirdly enough, I was coaching somebody yesterday, and he takes LSD. He takes LSD, and he takes that basically every single day, and he's in debt a lot and all kinds of things. And this guy is in his late 20s, and I was saying to him, man, what are you going to be doing in the next 10 years? And he looked at me as if I'd asked him, like, when are aliens going to arrive here, right? Or when is the human population going to move to Mars? He has no structure, no discipline, no vision. So I actually want to congratulate you that you're already so far ahead at age 23. If you're already this far ahead and you're already thinking in this kind of leadership mindset, my God, imagine what you could do with your life. So I just thought that that's really the answer that I would give you. Because you can't really move forward unless you really see the world from your dad's skin, but also you understand that there could be a compromise here. That it's not that he's right or you're wrong and you're right and he's wrong. It's neither or. You just have to work out what is your truth, so which works for both of you, right? Because you don't want to cut your parents off. You don't want to just say, well, I'm going to just move out anyway, irrelevant of my dad. See, that's like a teenager's response. You want to be like a man that you already clearly are being, and make a decisive decision from a good intention and from all the relevant information. you want to think, okay, well, I don't want to upset my family, but let's look at perhaps we can make a compromise, right? Maybe I can buy a home which is near my parents, right? Look at all the options that are available to you and don't just say it's either this or that. It's not just either this or that. The world isn't just black or white. It's a multitude of different colors with loads of different layers and different stages. So that's something that I would encourage you to think about. This then leads us to the last thing that I want to talk about, a last question, which says this. I've seen a house I really like, but my girlfriend doesn't know if she wants to move in with me. So it goes like this. I've been saving really hard for a house for the last 2 years. I've been with my girlfriend for 18 months and she knows it's my ultimate goal to own my own house. Anyway, I now have enough for a deposit and a mortgage advisor has found a bank that will lend me enough money to buy a house that I've fallen in love with. I've shown it to my girlfriend and she's now putting a negative spin on things. She's the one who is in the past who has mentioned, she's the one who in the past who has mentioned her moving in with me. She has a bad credit score and very little savings, so it will be a long time before she could afford a deposit. I've showed her the house I liked and she agreed it was nice, but then she said she doesn't know if she wants to move in with me and she wants to live near her folks. Even though I live 10 minutes away from her currently, this house I've seen is only 5 minutes away from her, so she'll still be able to be close to her parents. I just get the feeling that she liked the idea of moving in with me, but now it may become a reality that I can buy a house. It may become a reality that I can buy a house. She's getting cold feet. What should I do? I really love this house. Wow, great question, great question. Okay, so firstly, I want to congratulate you with your amazing feat to actually get a deposit. You know, we live in a world today where to even get a deposit to buy a house is like bloody Jesus Christ. So the fact that you've already got this deposit, I want to really just congratulate you. And actually, this says a lot about you as a person. The fact that you've saved for the last 2 years shows you have discipline. It shows that you have patience. It shows that you have vision. It shows that you have initiative, right? These are all qualities, and it actually shows that you've had a really good foundation at a really early age, which shows that you're going to be able to do really, really great things with your life. You're going to be able to soar and flourish if already you're setting up this great foundation at such an early age. So that's the first thing that I want to share with you. The second thing that I want to share with you is, I actually think that you're looking at the wrong question. You're asking the question, should you, essentially, and I'm generalizing here, the question that you're really asking is, should you go and buy the house, irrelevant of whether your girlfriend wants to buy it or not? That's really what you're asking. I think that's the wrong question. The question that you really want to be asking is, do you want to buy a house with this girl? Because if you want to buy a house with this girl, does it really matter when you buy a house? Does it matter that you buy the house in the next 5 years or in 10 years? Does it really matter if you buy it today? Not really, because if what's really important is her, then really waiting 6 months or a year for when she's ready doesn't really matter. That's the first thing here, which is really important, that I would share with you. So I would really urge you to really look at that question. And that question may force you to answer some questions that you don't really want to answer, because they may be already underlying problems in the relationship that you perhaps are not identifying. And I'm going to get to this in a second, but she's identified that there is, but you're trying to cover it up. And you think if you buy your own house and you move in, somehow it's going to magically just sort itself out. That's the first thing that I would share with you. Really look at, are you focusing on what's really important? Is really buying a house, let's say in 2 years' time, more important than losing somebody who is potentially the mother of your children, your wife, your best friend, your partner in crime. Is it really worth it? I don't know. I would look at that, because I personally, if I had to wait an extra 2 months, an extra year, 2 years, 3 years to wait for my missus to be ready to buy a house, I would, because I love her. And I want, this is not a life which is my life. This is our life. We're building a future together. And let me add something onto this, which is really important. There are 4 things that we found I guess the leading factors to divorce or to a breakup of relationship. Number 1 is money. Money is the number 1 thing that people break up over. What to do with it, who earns more, who stays at home, how do you split the money, do we do shopping weekly, do we shopping 3 times a week, do we buy furniture with it, do we go to IKEA, do we go to Habitat, do we go to the Range, what to do with the money, right? Second one is like family, third one is kids, and the fourth one is religion, right? So number 1 is money. If you cannot resolve this issue, which is the number 1 reason why relationships break up, at this point, you're already, this is major, right? You're already hitting a stumbling block. So this is really something that you want to solve and get a grapple with before you commit to buying somewhere. Yourself anyway, right? Because if you don't solve this with this girl, this situation is going to arise in the future. And actually, this says a bit about you as a person, because what does that say about you, that you're willing to throw away a relationship and you don't want to negotiate and you don't want to wait for your partner? You will do it regardless, right? What does that say about you as a person? And I love the fact that you've asked this question, because this says that you have a morality. This says actually, should I tell you what I actually think? I actually know that you know the answer to what you should do. You're asking this because you want confirmation, but really you already know what you should be doing in this circumstance. That's why you've asked it. If you were morally conflicted, you would have just gone ahead and bought it. And if you really wanted it and you didn't believe that she was right deep down, which I'm going to get to in a minute, you just gone and bought it anyway and left her. But clearly you're conflicted. So that's one thing to hear. So now let me get to her, because this is really important. So I talk about all the time putting yourself in other people's skin. Firstly, isn't it interesting that your missus clearly must be the sensible one out of you two? Yes, you're disciplined. Yes, you've worked really hard. But your missus has clearly got some level of sort of ability to just stop and wait a minute. Because clearly she's hesitating. Clearly she's saying, hold on a minute, let's just put a break on something. Something isn't right. Something isn't going ahead. And that leads me to the next. So that's the first thing. That leads to the next thing. The other thing that I would ask you to think about is why? Why is she hesitant? What is going on behind the scenes that you're not aware of why she's hesitant? There's clearly something that she's not telling you that is reserving it. I think the thing is that you, and I'm guessing here, this is speculation, but I think what it is that you are dreaming a future which she is not involved in. And because she's not involved in it, she's then not invested in what it's going to have to take to get there. And I bet you that you've had several conversations about money, about this situation, and you've tried to kind of brush it off, but clearly it's an issue for her. And you've gone ahead, even though she says she's not ready, even though she says she's doubtful about her finances, you've gone ahead and not really listened to her, and still gone ahead and viewed houses, and still gone ahead and go. See, this is interesting. You say, I've gone and found a mortgage advisor, and he's told me that I can buy this house. Where is she in all of this? The agreement in principle should be for both of you, not you alone. So it seems to me that you are going ahead and leaving her behind. She's not really involved in this journey with you. So isn't it interesting that perhaps she's hesitant? I don't know. I may be wrong, but I'm just asking you to think about that and put yourself in her skin. Clearly she's hesitant, but why? Why is she hesitant? Is what I would ask you to really ask. And as I say, you may have to have a really awkward conversation with her where you ask her, babes, like, what are you hesitant about? And give her space to tell her truth. Don't try to preempt guess her. Don't say, well, is it this or is it that? Sit and actually listen to the answer that she gives you and take it in. Sit on it, sleep on it, sleep on it. You don't need to give her a response. You don't need to give her an answer. Just listen and take it in. What is her fears? What is she feeling scared about? But the other great thing is, clearly she wants to move in. Clearly because she said, you've talked about this, right? And she says she's the one who approached it. Maybe perhaps one of the things that you might want to do is, if you're not already renting together, rent somewhere together, right? Maybe perhaps you two, I mean, I don't know whether you said that or not. No, you haven't said that. But if you don't already rent together, oh no, because you said that she already lives somewhere else, and yeah, that would be something to do, because you said she already lives somewhere else and her parents live somewhere else. One of the first steps that I would do is rent somewhere for 6 months. Rent somewhere for a year. See, these days you can get 6 months tenancies, a year tenancy. Rent somewhere for 6 months and see how that goes. And then make a decision together. Because clearly you don't even live together. And she's really hesitant about moving in because this is a big leap. Clearly you are a visionary and she's clearly a very level-headed person where she's thinking, whoa, 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 whoa. Before you go ahead and book the honeymoon, let's just look at the finances. Are we going to actually be able to pay our rent when we come back? So something for you to think about. And I don't know whether that answers the question, but that ends today's and this week's show. And I hope that it's been useful to you. I don't know whether it has. If you have a question that you would like an answer to, send me a message, write it down below in the comments, send it to me privately, and I will do my very best to answer it. Thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you in next week's episode. Bye for now.